After studying this chapter, students should be able to define strategy based on Mintzberg's 5 P's framework of strategy, distinguish between deliberate and emergent strategy, explain what strategy contains in practice, describe what is meant by strategic, tactical, and operational decisions, explain what is meant by hierarchical congruence and why it is important, employ the stakeholder model to explain how strategic decisions are arrived at, define mission, and describe the purpose and typical contents of a mission statement. Explain the most typical types of objectives that are sought through strategic management. Mintzberg's 5 P's of strategy. Strategy is a plan, its most common use of the word. Something that is intentionally put into action and progress is monitored from start to finish. It's documented and often long-term. For example, Whitewater Raft Company may decide to develop new trips on new rivers in order to attract different target markets. Strategy as a ploy. Short-term strategy based on tactical actions. It is designed to maneuver and outwit a competitor. For example, offering lower prices in the short term to increase visitors for Labor Day weekend. Strategy as a pattern of behavior. Progress is made by adopting consistent forms of behavior within the organization. Patterns just happen as a result of consistent behavior. Strategy as position in respect to others. This type of strategy is appropriate when the most important thing for a tourism organization is how it relates to its competitors or its markets. For example, a bed and breakfast viewed as exclusive, expensive, for couples wanting a romantic getaway, a destination in and of itself, versus a bed and breakfast that is inexpensive, seen more as a place to stay while visiting area sites and destinations. Strategy as perspective. This is based on changing the culture of a certain group of people, often the employees, that is, their beliefs, the way of looking at the world. For example, having employees dress, behave, and interact with customers in a way that reflects high quality and professionalism versus in a way that reflects a laid-back, familiar attitude with guests. Behavior of waitstaff at an exclusive, high-end restaurant versus a restaurant such as Red Robin. This behavior is ultimately designed to contribute to the success of the restaurant. There are 2 additional concepts defining strategy. These are particularly describe differences between plan and pattern strategies. Deliberate strategy is planned for and meant to happen. It is monitored and controlled with a specific objective. An emergent strategy has no specific objective nor a preconceived route to success. Often it emerges as a result of a consistent pattern of behavior by staff. Components of strategy. Based on a general definition of strategy, components of strategy illustrate what good strategy is in practice. Strategy is the determination of the basic long-term goals and objectives of an enterprise, and the adoption of courses of action and the allocation of resources necessary for carrying out these goals. There are certain resource inputs or factors of production that are important in strategy. Inputs essential for the normal functioning of the organizational process in strategy making. These include financial resources, human resources, physical, tangible, and operational resources, and intellectual or intangible resources. Levels of strategic decisions. 3 levels of strategic decisions are often referred to as 3 levels of planning. The difference in these levels is found in their focus, the level in the organization at which they are made, their scope, time horizon, degree of certainty or uncertainty, and complexity. The levels are the strategic level, the tactical level, and the operational level. The operational objectives must be consistent with the broader tactical level objectives and both operational and tactical level objectives must fit with strategic level objectives. This is called the hierarchical congruence of objectives. The table shown here describes differences in each of these factors across the strategic, tactical, and operational levels. For example, under focus of decision, at the strategic level, the focus is to achieve sustainable competitive advantage. At the tactical level, it is the implementation of strategy as a focus. And at the operational level, the focus of decision is on day-to-day operations. Another example is in time horizon, 4 lines down. At the strategic level, the time horizon is long-term, several years. At the tactical level, the time horizon of decisions is medium-term, months to years. And at the operational level, the time horizon is short-term, days, weeks, and months. At the complexity, strategic decisions are highly complex, tactical decisions are moderately complex, and operational decisions are comparatively simple. Examples of these are, at the strategic level, the decision to launch a new product, enter new markets, or new investment decisions. At the tactical level, an example might be the decision to advertise, change prices, and other marketing mix decisions. At the operational level, example might include the decision to reorder stock or the changing of the schedule of jobs across employees. I'd encourage students to study this graph, as it's found in the textbook, to better understand the different focuses across the strategic, tactical, and operational levels. Mission and mission statements. Mission statements are broad, objective, or statements about the organization's reason for being. The purpose of a mission statement is to clearly communicate objectives and values to stakeholder groups. It may influence behavior and the attitudes of employees, and may be the starting point for the organization's planning process. There are several characteristics of mission statements. They should be clearly articulated to all potential employees and stakeholders. They must be relevant to the organization, current to the organization's existing environment, and exhibit a positive role that the organization plays. It should emphasize the individuality or the uniqueness of that organization and be enduring over time. Mission statements should not be things that change every week, month, or quarter. However, enduring, they should also be adaptable to changing environments over time. What does a mission statement contain? The industry or business the organization is concerned with, an indication of the realistic market share or position the organization should aim for, a brief summary of the values and beliefs of the organization in relation to stakeholders, employees, and customers, an indication of the ownership or control of the organization, a summary of the geographical location or scope of activities, and highly context-dependent objectives are sometimes expressed in a mission statement. How do businesses set objectives? Who influences the objectives set for an organization? There are two competing approaches to setting objectives. One is the stockholder approach. This approach argues that businesses exist for their ownership, that is, stockholders, owners, and partners. Any objective that negatively impacts profit performance is undesirable. The stakeholder approach. This approach defines stakeholders as any group or individual who can affect or is affected by the achievement of an organization's objectives. It suggests that organizations are characterized by relationships with various groups, including owners, customers, employees, any group or individual with an interest in the organization's activities. Stakeholder power. is the ability of stakeholders to influence the organization. Stakeholder interest is stakeholders' willingness to influence the organization. Combining these two factors, stakeholder power and interest, results in stakeholder influence. This is a way of thinking about stakeholders and ranking them in terms of their influence and considering them in the business's setting of objectives. The figure below describes the relationship between stakeholder power and stakeholder interest. At one end, where there is low power and low interest, these organizations would be the least influential stakeholders. As we move to the right, increasing influence is illustrated. At the point where stakeholder power is high, and that stakeholder has high levels of interest in the organization, these businesses would be most influential. You can use this map to assess two things: what stakeholder is likely to exert the most influence on organizational objectives, and what stakeholders are likely to be in potential conflict over strategic objectives. This is an example of how businesses may look at stakeholders and ultimately determine the extent to which the business's objectives should be consistent with those stakeholders' desires. There are many different kinds of internal and external stakeholders. Internal stakeholders include groups like the board of directors, employees, both collectively and individually, employees' representatives such as unions and trade associations, functional business areas such as the marketing department, the finance department, and geographical areas of the organization, for example, Europe, Asia, the United States. External stakeholders include shareholders, creditors and suppliers, customers, trade bodies, pressure groups, competitors, the government, private individuals, regulatory bodies, and the local community. Those stakeholders who exist external to the business. The importance of objectives. An objective is the end the firm seeks and the criteria the firm uses to determine its effectiveness. One type of objective is a closed objective. It is stated in quantitative terms and is specific in form and time. Some objectives may be open, which are stated in qualitative terms and more general in form and time. Objectives provide a business a sense of direction, provide a standard of measurement and a means of controlling performance, and project an image of the organization's style. Corporate objectives serve to translate the mission into specific long-term targets that can be quantified and measured. There are strategic level objectives as well as tactical and operational level objectives. Corporate objectives relate to the whole organization, apply to the medium or the long term, are set by senior management, are related to many areas of concern for the business, and can all be pursued simultaneously. There are several characteristics of corporate objectives. First, they are communicable. That is, they are capable of being easily communicated down the line to the workforce and other internal and external stakeholder groups. They should be realistic. That is, they should be capable of being achieved within a specified time scale. They should be internally consistent. That is, consistent with the overall organization mission, the operational objectives, and the strategy for achieving the objectives once set. They should be measurable. That is, capable of being quantified so that they can be measured and it is possible to assess whether the objectives have been achieved. Finally, they should be explicit. They should be written in clear, unambiguous language, precise in relation to both targets set and to the time scale. There are other classifications of objectives. Economic objectives are those that can be measured in financial ways, for example, return on investment, sales, and assets. There are social objectives. These exist to deliver social benefits. For example, charities, museums, and other commercial organizations may have social objectives. They contribute to educating about leave no trace while leading people in the outdoors. There may be growth or market share objectives based on the need to grow and expand in certain stages of the business. And finally, competitive advantage objectives. These objectives focus on the position in relation to competitors, the desire to be better than or to beat specific competitors.